Hi, I'm Len Rydell, Executive Director of the Blue and Gray Education Society. I'd like to welcome you to Blue and Gray's 6th Symposium Tour Program, which took place in April of 1996. It was Snapping the Lifeline of the Rebellion, which was a study of the value of the city of Corinth, Mississippi, and the subsequent Battle of Shiloh and its relationship to Corinth. In working this program, I had the opportunity for the first time to draw Parker Hills into our program. As I may have mentioned, others of you have heard me mention before, at the time Parker was a lieutenant colonel in the Mississippi National Guard, was the director of public affairs. He might even have been promoted to full colonel by now, although I think he was still just a lieutenant colonel. Parker had been tremendous help to me in putting together the report and helping me to understand and appreciate the Vicksburg campaign, specifically in and around the area from Port Gibson over to Lake Providence, and then Grant's march from Port Gibson up through Jackson over to Vicksburg. So we had begun to develop a friendship, and as I had been hired early on to be the organizer of the Focus Vicksburg, Friends of the Campaign and Union Siege of Vicksburg. It had been one of the recommendations of the Vicksburg campaign program was to form a friends group, and the governor's office in Mississippi turned to me and asked me if I would do that. And of course, with Blue and Gray not bringing a lot of revenue in at that time, I think we just finished a year in which our total revenue for the year with donations and the 4 tours and stuff was barely $25,000, and I wasn't getting paid or anything. That's another story. But because I wasn't getting paid and we didn't have enough revenue, and I needed to get paid, or my wife was going to make me get a job, a real job. I had accepted a part-time gig to be the contractor to put together and organize the Friends group, and so I was given an office down in Vicksburg, Mississippi, at a bank, and access to the bank behind the security cameras, so I could come down and spend a week at a time, in which I was paid generously for that, to do the paperwork and organize and plan the Friends group. While that particular Friends group did not survive due to some of the politics of the area, it did result in spin-off groups. That there is a Vicksburg Campaign Friends group. There's a Vicksburg National Park Friends group. There is a Friends group at Raymond, Mississippi. So these spin-offs are logical consequences, I believe, of this campaign. But it was with this and spending a lot of time down there and having to look at things and put things together, in which I got to know Parker real well. And so Parker then became, while he's still with the Guard, he became my companion on a lot of these things. And so it was a real pleasure to invite him to do an opening lecture on Shiloh. Of course, with Shiloh, I had a lot of people who were qualified, and was, as I mentioned to you, the Trinity, the Three Musketeers. Steve Woodworth, I wanted him to talk about the relationship with Western generals. Brian Wills, of course, had done the wonderful biography on Nathan Bedford Forrest. Bob Womack had written a real compelling book about the common soldier of the Army of Tennessee. Stacy Allen was the historian par excellence of the Shiloh National Military Park. Phil Gottschall had written the book on the First Missouri in Deadly Earnest, and that had a substantial chapter on Corinth and Shiloh. And then Brooks Simpson, of course, had the biography on Grant, and had also written a book post-war, Let Us Have Peace. And so I had a really great group to pick from. Now, that was the good news. The bad news of this, as you will see from the inventory, is I've only got 3 lectures for you. The quality of the other lectures, Womack's, Allen's, Gottschall's, and Simpson had all deteriorated such that we just couldn't put them up. We couldn't even get a good audio on them. And that's what happens. I mean, the tape was 20 plus years old when we converted it to CD or to DVD rather, and we just didn't translate well when we played it. So but I do have the first 3 lectures of this, and I invite you to enjoy that. Knowing my time is what it is, and let me click off my diabetes meter, reminding me to take my sugar. But I did get Hills, Woodworth, and Wills's lectures, and they were 1, 2, and 3 in this program. Now we are going to do other Shiloh programs, so you can go looking, and you will probably pick up some of these other lectures or lectures like them in subsequent symposiums. But for right now, I'm just going to give you the first 3, which was basically the first morning of our day in April 1996. Again, we were still following a format of basically doing morning lectures and then afternoon field tours. And at this time in April, we had gone back to daylight standard time or daylight savings time. And so we had a later day. And so sitting back and presenting in Corinth, Mississippi, we still had plenty of time to make the trek 20 miles over to Shiloh to see the battlefield there. Parker Hills has become very familiar to us. Over the years, he's probably participated in, conservatively 50 programs over the years. And if you spend any time with Blue and Gray on any of our tours, you have been on a Parker Hills tour, and if you haven't, you should. Even more, his intro presentations are all PowerPoint, and they have become noteworthy events in and of their in their own right. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Parker Hills. This first one is not well recorded, as I pointed out, because we weren't planning to ever show this, but it is a combination PowerPoint discussion by Parker Hills. Director of the Staff Ride Program for the Mississippi National Guard, and that he takes the general officers and other developing officers, not just in Mississippi, but coming from various and sundry locations such as Illinois and places like that, and he takes them on the staff ride to the battlefields around Mississippi. When he is not doing that, when he's not writing a magazine, he is also the founder of a public relations business that his wife has more or less taken over now and is running it much better than he ever did. And he is now left as a lieutenant colonel working with the National Guard. So here to give us an overview of the Battle of Shiloh, preparatory to our tour this afternoon, is Parker Hills. Parker.
Lynn, you mentioned that a magazine of 6,000 or 7,000 people, really 15,000 with the downsizing of the military. I hope there's something you don't know. You know that, and by the way, this is going on. Lynn told me I had to wear a coat. I wore a coat. Okay. Let's get down to business. By the way, last time I told Lynn what he should wear, I told him when we went to Vicksburg that he really needed to wear long pants, because I was taking the place that even Yankees didn't want to go in '63. And he called me up a little while later, about 2 or 3 weeks later, and started complaining about these bumps all over his leg. And I said, welcome to Poison Ivy in Sugarland. Which one's on the bottom? So, listen to the people who go on the field. Okay, if you've heard any of this, don't interrupt me, I like to tell it. Remember that this agreement, General Gordon R. Sullivan, the Chief of Staff of the Army, told me this. Well, he didn't tell me, he told the auditorium of 340 people. Well, I happened to be in there, but he told us that this agreement is not necessarily just respect. So if you don't like what we're saying, anybody here, let us know, because there's a lot of opinions, particularly on this one particular battle, the Battle of Shiloh, and there's a lot of arguments that still rage to this very day on generalship and tactics and whatever. Bloody battle in the West. As all of us know, the Western theater doesn't get anywhere near the coverage that the Eastern theater does, particularly in the books and the paintings and whatever. And you start going through, and it's really difficult to find a lot of really good paintings, artist paintings of Shiloh or whatever, but you can find dozens and dozens of Antietam and Gettysburg and so forth. Yet when you go to Shiloh battlefield, you, as would be enveloped and embraced by that spirit, just like you do at Gettysburg. It's you can't walk on a foot of ground at Shiloh that there's not some very poignant story to tell. It is, it's just one of those battlefields. Let's take a look at the strategic situation in 1862 and see why Shiloh occurred. You can see here the blue territory. Basically, without getting into a lot of great detail, the Union Army figured out the best way to get into the South, because the limited roads and railroads and not having access to them, was through the rivers. So the Tennessee and the Cumberland rivers were perfect avenues of approach into Southern territory. As they came down the Cumberland River, the Tennessee River, you can see that Fort Henry and then Fort Donelson fell very rapidly, almost ludicrously. And about the only hero that came out of that whole mess was Nathan Bedford Forrest, which is a whole other story. But as we can see, Henry and Donelson fell, and the Union Army moves down. Ulysses S. Grant moves down. He was set to the headquarters in Savannah, Tennessee. For those of you who are not familiar with the area, the eastern side of the Tennessee River was more or less Union territory. The western side was more or less Confederate territory, so you had a river almost separating two trains of thought in the countryside there. Grant stayed in the Union sympathized town of Savannah, waiting to see Sherman and the rest of the troops move down to Pittsburgh, Landing and Shiloh, and set up camp there. Don Carlos Buell's army had moved on down. His division was coming down to Columbia, Tennessee. He was ordered to move westward to marry up with Grant. The idea was to move from Shiloh to Pittsburgh Landing down to Corinth. Why Corinth? Well, the map shows it. You all know the story. Let's repeat just a little bit. Corinth, Mississippi. It was the place where the Memphis and Charleston Railroad intersected the Mobile and Ohio Railroad. The Mobile and Ohio running north and south, the M&C running east and west. The Memphis and Charleston was called the backbone of the Confederacy. The troops could move, the material could move, the supplies could move. So once those railroads fell, a great strategically important town called Mississippi was gone. That leads us to the Confederates. Realizing what the Union was up to, that was the T. Johnston, basically using P.T.T. Beauregard as his right-hand man, started massing troops in Corinth, Mississippi. He had a great deal of difficulty doing so. In the process, though, he eventually was able to mass the forces that you see here. That was Sidney Johnson. I won't go into a great deal of detail about him because we have no secret just on covering. Suffice to say, he was born in Kentucky. He moved to Texas. He was a West Point graduate. He became the Secretary of War for the Texas Republic. He was one of those guys that found out that his niche in life was being a warfighter. He was not a good businessman. He had a bad personal life, a lifestyle of TV, he wasn't a couple of kids. He had a hard time. But when he got into the uniform, he came to life. That was Sidney Johnson. He's the old man of this campaign, 59 years old. No offense to anybody. Okay? As you can see, the Army of the Mississippi was divided into corps. He had three different corps, actually with a reserve corps. Let's talk about those three different corps. The first corps was commanded by Leonidas Pope. We had our reception in the headquarters house at Leonidas Pope last night, the Oaks. Right before the battle, as we moved to Corinth, moved to Shiloh, went to Leonidas Pope's headquarters. Pope was a West Point graduate. Pope was getting sick, but he was a big barrel chested fellow. He had rooms of all things, with Alexander Johnson in West Point. Very good close personal friend of Jefferson Davis. He was suspicious of superiors. He really did not like taking orders that much. But he was trusted by Alexander Johnson. You can see Polk's Corps has got a little over 9,000 troops. Here's a guy that might love to hate Braxton Bragg, a man who can have victory from the jaws of defeat, as they say. Braxton Bragg, the 2nd Corps commander. Here's the big corps, 13,000. And these numbers are going to differentiate from whoever you read, because the records are very, very good. You are seeing this corps as high as 17,000. We know it's around the 14,000 mark. His troops are considered to be the best trained of the batch, because he was just such a first-class SOB that he kept them running and jumping and hanging them and stealing tickets, and he wasn't a popular man. He was a West Point graduate. A very inflexible man. Mean-tempered, irascible, and SOB was probably a polite word for him. Still, you would think, with his military background and with his stern countenance, that he'd be the guy you'd want in the trenches next to. Now will prove different. Next Corps Commander, William Hardy, old Revival, a career Army officer, West Point graduate. Wrote the book, literally wrote the book on rifle and infantry tactics. He's in his mid-40s. Hardy's pretty good man. I'm not going to say anything bad about Hardy. Notice this corps is a little small. A little under 7,000. And John Cabell Breckinridge, the only non-West Point of the bunch, is a lawyer. Breckinridge was a very successful lawyer and became Vice President of the United States in 1866. So he's up there. He carries a lot of weight. He's got the reserve corps of about 6,000 troops. The Union Army had moved out, as I mentioned, to Pittsburgh Landing. The came to Pittsburgh Landing and deployed out. And you can see the then and now photos there, or now and then, whichever way you want to put it. The modern view of Pittsburgh Landing today, and that Pittsburgh Landing was all the Union steamboats on your right. They deployed out about 2 miles from Pittsburgh Landing to Shiloh Meeting House. The log church that you see there is long gone. The modern Methodist church is there today. Shiloh, by the word, is a Hebrew word meaning place of peace. Now, let's take a look at the Union order of battle with the troops right there. We all know about Sam Grant, Elizabeth Grant. And you can see his total troops there are about 43,000, 44,000, almost 45 showing there. But that's not what he had on the field on the deck. Grant is another one of those guys that made a great soldier, but a pretty doggone poor civilian. West Point graduate also. Failed with everything he did in civilian life, and his initial encounter in the Army was not too particularly good. But he did know some politicians, and he did come in, read back up back in 61. And of course, he is the hero of Fort Henry and Donaldson, and so he's in command down here. He had got to talk between two bosses, Halleck and Buell, and had some unfortunate circumstances there. But right now, he's fairly in the driver's seat. He's controlling his own destiny here. And right now, as it starts out, he won't be doing too terribly great a job at it. All right, let's look at his commanders. Now, the Union Army is not divided into corps. In this particular instance, they're divided into divisions. Vicksburg is actually the other way around. The Confederate division, the Union Army is a corps. But here, at Shiloh, the Union Army is divided into divisions. And kind of interestingly enough, under artillerymen, they had divarted. Each division had its own artillery, whereas the Confederate Army, each brigade had a battery attached to it. But now they've got divarted here. So that sort of helps in the massing of the artillery on the Union side. And as we see the battle progress today, the performance of the Confederate artillery was dismal compared to the Union artillery at best. That's mostly the case throughout the war, except for some certain situations. But for most cases, the Confederate artillery did not perform terribly well. And Shiloh was one of those cases. Now, his first division commander is another old man. He's about 50 years old. John Allen. and really pushing that envelope here. But McClernand is another one of those old rascal, mean-tempered, foul-mouthed guys. He's a politician. He's a civilian. He got his rank strictly to who he knew. Abe Lincoln has not a big deal. McClernand will eventually relieve the command in Vicksburg like Grant a year later. But the son of a gun can fight. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He loves to brag. He loves to take credit for things he didn't do. Sure get under your skin. They like to talk to reporters, and no good soldier likes to do that. They pay some fool like me to talk to reporters. That's why I'm talking so much today, by the way, because when I'm talking to reporters, I got to teach you 3 different words like it cost me $50. And it's like the IG. Never volunteer anything to a reporter, never volunteer anything to the IG either. And before that, I was in the counter drug business. I couldn't talk, so now I got you. And I'm doing so. McClernand. Okay, let's go to the next guy. William Harvey Lamb Wallace, W.H.L. Wallace. Wallace is down the 2nd Division. Wallace is a brand new division commander. He got command of the division because the other division commander skinned his knee and died and hit him eventually. But Wallace gets to the division. Wallace will be killed at Shiloh. So you really won't have an opportunity to learn a whole lot about him. A lawyer. Not a career soldier. So now we've got 2 lawyers and no West Pointers here. Remember, the Confederate time we had 4 West Pointers. We had Johnston, we had Polk, we had Hardy, and Bragg. And then we had 1 civilian soldier, Breckinridge. And now here we've got Grant from West Point. We've got a lawyer in the 1st Division, a lawyer in the 2nd Division. Lew Wallace, another lawyer. And Lew Wallace's father was governor of the state of Indiana, so Lew he's kind of well-heeled. Lew will not come out of Shiloh in the happiest of circumstances. Pearl Buck, another lawyer. Soldier by birth, Louis North. Pearl Buck is one of these guys, he's been taught well at Shiloh. He's one of these guys that wherever he goes, there's a cloud of graft and corruption surrounding him. And he loves to line his pockets with the Army's money. And even after the war, he will so do. So you don't want to turn your back on him. You don't want to really trust him. But at Shiloh, he does Grant a fair job. A fair job. William D. Sherman, the only other West Pointer in the batch, commanding the 5th Division. Sherman is a very trusted subordinate of Grant, actually ranks Grant, but is his subordinate now. Sherman is a good fighter, horrible tactician in my just one man's opinion, but a good fighter. Lots of nerve. He can see the big picture, the strategical level picture. He can even see it at the operational art level. But when it gets down to tactics, put somebody else in command, grab me a 2nd lieutenant, and put this guy back in the headquarters tent. Benjamin Mayberry Prentice, another lawyer. Prentice commands the 6th Division. Now, Prentice's troops will fight quite well. Prentice will eventually resign from the Army a year or so later, feel like he got passed over unjustly, and will get out. Prentice's men will fight very, very well at the Hornet's Nest. Now, of all of these divisions, all of them are at Shiloh, with the exception of Lew Wallace's division, which is up at Cross Landing, just across the river from Savannah, Tennessee. So, you see you've got the total of 45,000, but Lew Wallace is 7,500. We're not there. That's dropping down to below 40,000, 37,000, 38,000 troops that are there at Shiloh when the Confederates attack. Now, if you remember the figures, the Confederates were attacking around 43,000, 44,000, so they've got the gangs outnumbered. Okay, let's look at another interesting character here, P.G.T. Beauregard. On the Confederate side, Pierre Gustave Toutant Beauregard, Creole, thanks for education. Beauregard is the hero of First Annapolis. This is Beauregard's headquarters, still standing here in Corinth, Mississippi, the Fish Pond House. Beauregard is the man who starts things in motion, and Johnston is the man who gives Beauregard the authority to really start writing the orders and making the plans. Now, you cannot delegate you can delegate authority, but you cannot delegate responsibility. So he delegated authority to P.G.T. Beauregard for writing the orders and doing the dirty work, but you cannot delegate the responsibility, so you cannot say that anything went wrong with Beauregard's fault. Now, Johnston wrote it off and approved it. So we'll talk about that. On the night of the 2nd of April, 62, yes, Lou Olson Street began to move towards Percy. And Memphis and the Mobile and Ohio Railroad. One of the Confederate brigades up there, Cheatham, sends a message down that they're moving on him. Beauregard understands the message has come down. He sends a courier over to Johnston's headquarters, which was right next door to where we had our party on the reception last night. It's about 10 p.m. Kind of concerns Johnston. They say Beauregard thinks we should attack because the Union troops are getting ready to marry up. Buell's troops are coming from Columbia. They're getting ready to marry up with Grant's troops up there at Pittsburgh Landing. They will greatly outnumber us when that happens. When those 12,000 or so troops will show up, it's really going to put us in a bind. We better strike while the iron is hot. Johnson gets up, all right, he goes across the street to Bragg's headquarters. Braxton Bragg is in the Curley house, still standing today. Gets Bragg out of bed in the night shirt, talks with him. Johnson and Bragg confer about this thing, and they make the decision, well, I think maybe we can better attack. Beauregard thinks we should do so. Everyone agrees. They make the decision that they're going to attack. They're going to head out at 0600 the next morning. By now, ladies and gentlemen, it's about 11 p.m., 2300 hours, and they're scheduling a massive movement 7 hours later, and the troops are all in Iraq. Set realistic goals. That was not realistic to begin with. There was no way those troops are going to be moved at 0600 hours. It just wasn't going to happen. You might wish it could have happened, but it wasn't going to happen. And of course, it did not. The next morning, Johnston heads on over to see Beauregard at Fish Pond House, and they talk this thing over, make the decision, attack. Jordan goes on over and talks to Jordan, the assistant adjutant general of the Army, and who's also Beauregard's right-hand man, Colonel Thomas Jordan. Jordan goes on over and talks to Beauregard and says, let's work up some Beauregard here. Work this up, here's the sketch map, and we're going to strip map the road. That's no 1 to 50,000 map. He's doing strip maps with pencils on paper. He hands it to Jordan, says, go back and work me up some orders here. Everyone agrees. Jordan goes back and works up special orders number 8. Very controversial set of orders. Aside from the movement, one of the key controversies is it divides the Confederate Army up into corps, but instead of having the corps with side-by-side corps sectors as the Army fights today, the corps are in tandem, one behind the other. So you've got an entire corps stretching out for 3 miles in a linear pattern, making command and control virtually impossible, particularly without radio in those days. Instead of assigning corps sectors, the first corps is here, the second corps is here, the third corps is here, and you've got your boundaries, they are behind one another. It's been highly criticized. There are those who will try to take up for it and say, well, it'll happen anyway. Well, I'm kind of one of those guys, try to do the best you can, lay it out right in the first place, if it goes to hell in a handbasket, okay. But when you lay out a completely faulty foundation, you're dead before you start. Special orders number 8. Special orders number 8 calls for an order of march of Hardee's Corps to move out at 0600 hours. So that doesn't happen. At 1200 hours is the first time anybody starts putting their foot on the road. Colt's Corps is then to move out behind Hardee's Corps on the Ridge Road. Now, if you can picture 7,000 to 8,000 troops, horses and wagons moving up muddy roads, stretching out for 5, 6, 7 miles, and then somebody else has got to come behind them in all that mud, you can see what they're up against here. Bragg's Corps holds the mission of going to Shiloh on the Monterey Road, which heads north out of Corinth also. Now, the Monterey Road is a more circuitous route, twists and turns, and the road is in worse shape. And they decide, well, Bragg's Corps is better disciplined, so let's give him that responsibility. And Breckinridge's Corps is down in Burnsville. They've got to go to Farmington and then come up, so they're going to follow Bragg's Corps basically on the Monterey Road up. So you've got basically Hardee's and Polk's Corps on the Ridge Road and Bragg's and Breckinridge's Corps on the Monterey Road. Kind of the way it works out. First block. Bragg's, Polk, and Hardee's Corps are all camped in downtown Corinth. and they're commingled, they're scattered all over the place, and they still argue today as to how exactly it all got followed up. So Hardy's men couldn't move out because Polk's men were in the way. At least that's what Hardy said. Hardy goes down and sees Beauregard and says, I can't move. So they tell Polk to get out of the way, and one account says, well, Polk will refuse to move till he had written orders. Another account says Hardy refused to move till he had written orders. All we know is they didn't move. And finally, around noontime, the first elements of Hardy's corps begin to head out the Ridge Road up north towards Mickey's. Mickey's just an old house up in the countryside at the intersection. Not to be confused with Mickey, Tennessee, which used to be Monterey, Tennessee. But in the early 1900s, when they tried to get a post office, they found out it was already Monterey, Tennessee, in eastern Tennessee, so they changed the name. I asked an old gentleman one day, I said, why is that called Mickey? Because I was the woman in town with most money. So they helped out tax base. So they named it after Miss Mickey. But it confused me a while because I thought maybe Mickey's was a derivation. And no relation there. Okay, Hardy's men move out. Polk's men start following, and Bragg's men start moving out on the Monterey Road up towards Park. You can see the routes here, and you've got a map of this in your book. The Ridge Road obviously was along the ridge of the high ground towards Mickey's. Bragg had to move along the Monterey Road up to Monterey. And a little tricky maneuver here. When he gets to Monterey, he's supposed to send one of his divisions, Ruggles' division, who was in the rear, down the road connecting Monterey to Purdy, right here. And they're supposed to pile in behind Polk's men, in front of Polk's men, behind Polk's men, and we'll get it straight. Behind Hardy's men and in front of Polk's men, between the two corps and move up the road. They're supposed to pull in right there, and that's going to allow Bragg to get his big corps up to Mickey's right here, about 2/3 of them going this way and 1/3 of them going that way. Problem is, when Bragg gets up to Monterey, he sees the condition of this little small cut-off road right here, and says, I don't want any part of that. And he doesn't send his division down the road. Ruggles' division. Polk is sitting right here waiting for, he can't go because he knows Ruggles' division is supposed to come in front of him and he can't move. So they have a delay there until finally Bragg says, I better send somebody down there. Poor old Liam Adams might be waiting on me. He sends a courier down there, and sure enough, there's an entire corps held up waiting. Another one of those delays goes on. This is a picture of the Ridge Road today. Of course, remember, all mud and dirt back in those days. And the Monterey Road. Incidentally, this is Monterey, Mickey, Tennessee today, and the road that Bragg is supposed to have taken is this road right along the line here. As he went up, he was supposed to take 2/3 of his division this way and send Ruggles' 2/3 of his corps this way and Ruggles' division down this way, which he did not do. Okay. Late on the afternoon, after numerous delays, on the 5th of April, Polk's corps is right here at the Bark intersection of the Bark Road and the road going into Shiloh. Hardy's corps is in line of battle right up about 2 miles from Shiloh Church. They just fight. Bragg's corps is secondary in line right behind Hardy's corps, and Polk's men are moving up. Bragg and Polk and Beauregard meet right here at the intersection of the Bark Road. Bragg and Beauregard are talking, and Bragg is in a bad mood because he's had a bad day trying to get his troops where they're supposed to be. Ruggles' division got all piled up and got lost. Johnston's unhappy because of all the numerous delays. Poor Polk comes walking up. Polk and Bragg didn't get along too well because Bragg didn't get along with anybody. And Beauregard didn't get along too terribly well with Polk either. Remember, I mentioned Polk mistrusted his superiors. So when he walked up, he spoke like a lady went to the bathroom during the bridge games. He came back and everybody was talking about it. He walked up and he started really kicking him up and Beauregard. And blaming Polk for the delays on the march. So Polk started shouting back and going back. About that time, Johnston sees this trouble up here with 3 very high-ranking officers at the road. Johnston walks up, has a long talk, says, well, let's go get Breckinridge and see what we think here. And Breckinridge has to come riding up at about that same time. So you've got Johnston Beauregard, Bragg, and Breckinridge and Polk there, and they're talking. Hardee is not there. His pain was inactive. That's Hardee right here. He was not there. That's Hardee's corps flag. They were up on the battle line. Hardee was not there. This is Breckinridge's corps flag, Bragg's corps flag. You've got Leonidas Polk there, Braxton Bragg there, P.G.P. Beauregard, Johnston, and John Cabell Breckinridge standing there. Now here's the rub. Beauregard and Bragg turned to the ball. Now these are the guys that tossed the balls into attacking. Said, we changed the mind, boss. He said, the hell you say you changed your mind? He said, yeah, we don't think we should attack. They had to know that the Yankees must know we're here. Now, and this really must have gotten into Johnston's head. He advised against attacking initially because he didn't think the troops were ready. Bragg and Beauregard talking him into it. Now, when it really gets ready to hit the fan, they want to pour the electricity on it. And he said, Polk, what do you think? He said, boss, and parentheses, old roommate at West Point, I think we should attack. And Johnston said, now, by God, there's a soldier. He doesn't say that out loud. That's why I'm not thinking for Johnston. I'm pulling a sheriff here. I'm putting so I know what he's thinking. Lee must have been thinking the same thing at Gettysburg with Longstreet. I'll question. There's nothing worse than being in charge and your subordinate turns into the boss, bad idea, when it's too late to change your mind. You know, that's like when you leave out of the plane and just get that whole red cord, somebody says, you shut it down! It's a little late to tell me, guys, and it's too doggone right here. So, Johnston says, okay, Breckinridge, what do you think? He said, sir, we're in good shape, we got plenty of chow. I was going to complain about the cow. He said, no, buddy, dog, he's brought him in, shot it. It's cold, it's raining. It was supposed to be a day and a half march, and it's been 3 days. They didn't have any chow, no they had chow. They shoot a rabbit, the guy said. But he said, boss, we got chow, let's go. So he says, gentlemen, we attack in the morning. So now Johnston becomes the decisive Johnston. He realizes I had put my faith on the wrong people. I need to put my faith in myself, and I think I'm going to grab this bull by the horn and let's go. It's just one-off points in time in a commander's life, and he realizes it's about time I take the responsibility and the authority and go. That's what it is. Okay. The battle plan. You notice Special Orders Number 8 calls for Hardee's Corps in advance, Bragg's in tandem behind, Polk's behind, and then Breckinridge as a reserve. Now, at the time the attack begins, Hardee's Corps is in line of battle, and Bragg's is about 800 to 1,000 yards behind him in line of battle. Breckinridge's Corps is actually in columns at the gate. They're not lying out of line of battle. They are not where they really should be, and Bragg's Corps had to slip some troops around on the Confederate right because Hardee's Corps was not long enough to stretch to 3 miles there, so Bragg had to send some troops around the right. Radney was the reason had to go around, and Radney's gate had to go around there to the right. He decided to send Radney's gate out of Rivers Division to the right for him. The plan was, and this will argue about this. There are people who say Johnston didn't really plan this. Well, we're going to have to talk about Johnston later on. I don't want to steal a man's thunder, so let's hear what he has to say, and then if we want to disagree, we don't have fun, okay? But as they go around the Confederate right, they got the idea is to separate the Union Army from the Tennessee River. Separate them from the base of operations at Pittsburgh Landing and drive them back into the marshes of Snake and Owl Creek and defeat them in detail. A great plan. The problem is the terrain analysis wasn't conducted. In those days, they didn't understand that. It's virtually impossible to do these things, but the king built on the place to it. Here's what really happened. They did not have the emphasis on the Confederate right. They attacked in the dead center. They hit the hornet's nest. They attacked around the Confederate left, the Union right. And eventually, Johnston gets around on the right flank and starts pressing the fight there. That's how the battle actually occurred. Okay, Sunday morning, 4:55 hours. Hardee's Corps is in line of battle. They are right on the edge of the Shiloh battlefield as we know it today. That's where all the Boy Scouts camped out, all along the line out there. About a mile from Shiloh Church, a little further than a mile from Shiloh Church. One astute Union commander, Everett Peabody, well, I've got a problem here. I can hear them out there. My scouts can see the fires. We can hear them beating drums. We got a problem. So he takes a regular Army major, so in Powell, sends Powell out with about 250 troops, because I want you to do a little recon. But I'm going to give you enough troops to recon and force. You see what's out there, and in 4:55 hours, those troops run into the Confederate waiting field. The Battle of Shiloh begins. 3 shots were fired by Confederate cadets, and the battle began. As the battle progressed, the Confederates attacked here in the Union Center at Wade Field. You can see Rick Reed's painting of the 6th Mississippi there at Wade Field, and carrying the Hardy's Corps flag. And that's the spot on Wade Field where this painting, the action occurred. We'll talk about that later on today. We'll go to that spot. Again, in the center of the line, at Peabody's camp and Prentice's division, they're completely surprised. The Confederate troops raced through. The Yanks actually took in breakfast. They're picking the Confederates stuff and picking up hot bacon out of the skillet. They're losing time doing it. The quicken it in. Everett Peabody is one of those heroes of the battle. Peabody is the man who sent out that recon patrol. We'll talk about him in greater detail. Peabody is killed in the opening hours of the battle. And there are 5 such mortuary monuments on the battlefield. These mortuary monuments have a vertical 32-pounder. Isn't that a 32-pounder? 30-pounder? Vertical 30-pounder. There are 5 of those on the battlefield, and you'll see them all 5, where really key personnel went down. Adley Gladden, the first of the Confederate generals to go down in the opening hours of the battle. Gladden is in the put around. He's taken from Bragg's corps and put around on the right to reinforce to fill in for Hardy's corps. So he goes out in the opening moments of the battle. Gladden is killed at point blank range by a cannon. Waterhouse's battery. Here's where we're talking about the artillery. The artillery, very fortuitous for the Yankees. The artillery was, as Clausewitz would say, in the right place and at the right time. And we'll talk about why this battery, Allen C. Waterhouse's battery, was in the right place at the right time when we get out there today. But they really did some damage to the Confederates and fellas from my hometown area in East Mississippi. Taylor's battery, or called Barrett's battery by some, we call Camp Seminary. Barrett was commanding. Barrett was commanding at the time. We'll see what happened there at Barrett's battery. Another one of those batteries that was just really right in the right place at the right time, and some really gutsy red legs there manning the two. Not so with Gordon or Bear's battery. We'll see what happened there. Battery commander goes down. And that's the rest of the day. That's been there 5 shots. Southern Yanks. Moving very quickly. What happens is the battle progresses. The Yanks were able to stalk along a sunken road, which you'll see today in great detail. The Hornet's Nest. Line up along the Hornet's Nest. There is a den now, photo of it. Hickenlooper's battery, which had seen some initial action at Spain Field, falls back and sets up their laser trails down right there along the road, and the sunken road there at the Hornet's Nest, and there's terrible damage to the Confederates at point blank range. As Gibson's being charged in the face of the battle. They can't see it because of the foliage, and at point blank range, catch face full of cannon. Emo Munch does the same thing with his battery, Minnesota troops. And you can see the Peach Orchard line here. The Yanks, the Hurlbut's troops there, the Peach Orchard, which is the eastern end of the sunken road where they fire where they are. We'll go there today. Albert Sidney Johnston, realizing it's not going the way I wanted, I want to get around the Union left and Confederate right, he decides to personally get in there and lead the charge. He rallies the troops. We'll go to that spot today and talk about it. They attack across the Peach Orchard. You see John Cabell Breckinridge troops. J.C. Breckinridge leading the charge through the Peach Orchard, which is the name of the painting called the Peach Orchard. They charge through, they break the Union line. Albert Sidney Johnston, in the process of so doing, is killed. The highest ranking field general in the Confederate Army goes down. Johnston's dying body is taken down into a ravine, which you see today, We'll talk more about Duncan Bill later in the day. Exterminating the hornets to take it over New Englander, who was a southerner. Now, Daniel Ruggles, remember the guy whose division couldn't get down the Purdy Road because Rag decided not to send him. Ruggles is a pretty good man. Ruggles decides, I don't like the way the artillery spread out. The battery gets the grade, so he sends out orders and he gathers up 62 guns and they blast against the Hornet's Nest. You see on the right the Hornet's Nest in Minnesota. The Massachusetts Mine is at the Hornet's Nest and across Duncan Field on the left. You'll see Ruggles' battery. And for about an hour and a half, they just blast them with 62 cannons and blast them out the whole way. Eventually, what happens is the Confederates get around the Hornet's Nest and they force the surrender of the Hornet's Nest. They move around on the Union right and the Union left and they force the surrender of the Hornet's Nest. In the process, right before the surrender, General W.H.L. Wallace on the Union side still hits the ball behind the left ear, comes out of his left eye. He doesn't die on the spot. We'll talk about his death later on. But another one of those mortuary monuments in one of those 8 poignant stories in the backfield. The surrender site is a picture of the old tree. This is where it happened today, where Pennington troops surrendered. Grant falls back and builds himself a final defensive line. Man's enough guns back there along the final defensive line as the sun goes down. And the Confederates have tried to make one last attack, one last charge through Bill Branch, a very deep ravine. Now the Riverside Drive is closed. It's just not feasible for us to walk all that distance. Be thankful I wasn't walking down Bill Branch. For those of you who haven't done it, you really don't want to. You'll get about knee deep in mud, but whatever. That is Bill Branch. If you've ever gone down into Bill Branch and realized that you were Confederate attacking a bunch of siege guns and you are ammunition and you have nothing but bayonets, you can understand why that attack was not going to succeed. And even though Beauregard called off the attacks at the end of the day, they could attack all night and not be able to succeed attacking those guns with Bill Branch. They had siege guns, they had all sorts of guns on Bill Branch, smoothbore rifles, big siege guns, the whole ball was rifles. Like you remember, it started raining again that night, a very miserable stormy night. Very bad on all the troops. One effect it had was the Confederates went back and gave up ground they had barely fought for and went back to the Union camp to get in the tent. So when they woke up the next morning, they had given up a lot of ground they had fought for. Reinforcements arrived on a Dr. Collins Buell at Other West Point. Not a particularly great fan of Grant. Grant didn't get along that fairly well. When Buell arrived with the 17,000 troops that night, and the tide pretty well hit the train. The Confederates wake up on Monday morning and they see, my Lord, there's about 25,000 more Yanks out there, even though Nathan doesn't tried to tell them all that long, nobody wanted to listen to him. Forrest was about on the man who didn't try to sleep that night. Everybody else, Lord, I'm so used to trying to find a good place to sleep. He finally let him take more tent, went to the Sherman's tent, and he was going to go to sleep, and nobody could find him. The attack basically was in reverse because now you've got the Union troops in the great outnumbering the Confederates. The Confederates have also been decimated. The Union troops are fresh. They drive them back. One final nice counter-offensive. Sam Wood, Confederate Sam Wood, leads his troops across Waterloo Pond, which is a dry pond and very rainy weather. And now they have a couple of 3 inches right there. I've never really seen it in real water in space. It doesn't get much out there anymore.
Well, they drained during the polio scares and went down to reform the fall.
I know.
I think it was putting affluent water. It never deeper than that.
In those days, it was about waist deep.
Well, they say so.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it. But they also said,
they're old soldiers.
Hey, first,
geology doesn't show that it was any more than foot and a half.
well, when you put on the uniform, the first mile ain't got a chance. Okay. Anyway, they attacked the Waterloo Pond, and Major Kelly and Major down on attack, but they're driven back. That's about that time the Beauregard either dies, and he's off, and they say the Confederate Army compared to a lump of sugar that's soaked in water and is just about to dissolve. Let's get out while we still have some shake. At 1400 hours, 2 p.m. on Monday, Beauregard charged with withdrawing. Now, I haven't stolen something. You stole it too, so well, okay. So the first line of Brian Steele Wilson's book is, you can't see the forest for the leaves. And I said, I'm not going to let it do this to me. So I wanted to tell you, you can't see the trees for forest. Now, Legendary Forest is ostensibly the last man wounded at Shiloh. And as he's trying to cover the Confederate retreat with about 350 cavalrymen in a place called Fallen Timbers, which will drive through the day, Forrest Grant gets up in the morning of Tuesday, the 8th, and he says, you know, there is something called pursuit. You should be doing this. You're not doing so. I better do something about it or be criticized. So he gets his best, most trusted subordinate, Punk Sherman, and he gives him a couple thousand troops to go out. So the Punk goes out, and they're still like guys in minefield. They're still there way out. They really have all the Confederates they wanted. And they get out about 3 miles from Shiloh Church. God help them, they ran and they conducted the farm. You know? And so what happens? I also just look forward to tell you a little bit about Forrest without going into too great detail. Forrest was a cavalryman, and all cavalrymen love their doggone staff. You know, big long knife. You know, you look at it, it looks great. Marshal, flying travels on his belt, makes one of those. Battle your saber. Go use the something. You know, what are you going to do with it? It's got a range of 3 feet. And if you're running a charge on a horse that takes 20, 25 miles an hour and you stick somebody with it, what's he going to do? Snap your wrist. That's why they call them the wrist bracelet. But, so Forrest said, you know, I don't like that idea. I think what I'll do is I'll issue my guys something with a little more range, so he gets an 1851 Colt revolver. And he issues this to his troops. Old black powder revolver. You know, slow to load. You got 40 powder in some, you got tactical powder, you got to put your ball in, you got to pack your ball. The real slow part is taking those little bitty percussion caps and putting them on nipples. And if you're in a reenacting stage, you can get carried away. I was once, just one time only, got suckered into being a reenactor in battle, and God, that's hot and dirty work. I don't know how you guys do that. You know, I get paid to get hot and dirty. You know, y'all pay to do it. But anyway, they just there, and they take these percussion caps up and gas the chest, and you try to put them on the nipple. Well, it's hard to do. So that's a long, slow process of 6 shots. But still, now you've got a range of 50 to 75 feet with this sucker. So Forrest trained his men to dismount and fight his dismount kill. What they just simply did was, they just waited till the Yankees came up and they just stepped up. There goes the guy with a knife. There goes another one. So, you know, Forrest was the guy who really came up, I think, with the idea, you never take a knife to a gunfight. He himself dearly loved his saber. He did. He sharpened it razor sharp from the tip all the way down here to the hilt. Regulation cavalry saber only sharp about here on one side. Forrest was razor sharp all around. That's why you rarely found any of his men around him when he drew that saber. That's why you will see the guy swinging a razor sharp saber next to him. So, what happens at Fallen Timbers? That's a long knife, so where am I going with this? Sherman's men move out in open field. Forrest is there at a Confederate field hospital guarding the rear. He sees the Yanks, and he says, hey, opportunity knocks, charge. As they charge across the fallen trees, the Yanks emerge from the woods, and Forrest's men, let's take them to fence in, look out there, and they said, my God, there's 350 of us and 2,000 of them, I think we'll halt. Without a command, they wheel up when they pull back on their reins. Forrest is so full of himself, blazing away with his pistol and his saber, that he doesn't realize he's by his lonesome, and he charges right into the Union line. And we'll show you today where that happened, and I'll tell you the rest of the story today on that. The Butcher's Bell, Shiloh, of course, you saw that was bloody battle in the West. Let's take a look at the casualty count. Look on the Union side, on the Union Army of the Tennessee, Grant's troops, total casualties around 11,000. The Army of Ohio, you see, that fought the second day, total casualties around 2,000. So you've got total Union casualties there of around 12,000. You've got dead there almost 2,000. On the Confederate side, well, The Union Cemetery, by the way, it was established in 1866, right after the war ended. The Union did, who was buried on the battlefield, moved out to the cemetery, and the Confederates laid where they fell, buried in burial census, which we those today. You can see the Confederate casualties, almost 11,000 total. So the casualties were very near equal here on the Battle of Shiloh. A real bloody battle, a real bloodletting with two basically untrained armies just bashing at each other in the woods. And I'll try to go in there and take some principles of war and some great lessons learned, and all I can just say is train your dadgum troops before you put into combat, and do a good route recon, and do a good IPB, intelligence preparation of battlefield before you take the men out there. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of good troops, and we up there, and the Confederates lost a lot of good troops on that day, and the Unions lost a lot of good troops that day, too. Albert Sidney Johnston, of course, was killed. His body was brought back to his Indian's house. This is Johnston's headquarters right next door. That was not the house. That house doesn't exist today. This is a newer house. He was put in a maiden state there. I'll tell you a little more about how he got there. So eventually, his body was taken by train down to New Orleans, buried in New Orleans, in one of those oven vaults above ground. Johnston was one place statement, and all over one of the 6 feet Texas soil over his head, so they disinterred him, took his body to Austin, Texas, and that is his grave in Austin, Texas today in the Old State Cemetery in Austin, Texas. I was there, I asked a young man at the hotel where the state cemetery was, and he said, why would you want to go to the cemetery? And, because I'm a big boy, I'm dressed in just old shirts, and no tie, you know, just dressed in knit shirt. This guy's got his Marriott blazer and tie, you know. Why would you want to go to the state cemetery? That's an old cemetery. I'm looking for an old body. Who? I said, Albert Sidney Johnston. Never heard of it. I said, where are you from, son? He said, right here, Austin. I said, you ever heard of Stephen F. Austin? He said, well, he's buried pretty close by. Did you ever been out? He said, who's Albert Sidney Johnston? I said, hi, if I can still Confederate General Civil War. Why would you want to go to the grave of the Confederate soldiers, honoring those people? I said, you think you're pretty well educated, then? Sitting here in your damn old blazer and your necktie, talking to a redneck from Mississippi. I said, I bet you can't tell what that music is playing. Well, that's just classical music. I said, that's what we'll try to piano children in 21 seconds music. What kind of piano is that out there? Oh, I thought that's 1890 chicken grand piano. It's totally tall, so don't make me explode. Now tell me what the hell the state cemetery is. Well, that's fun, I'll say. I don't know why I told you that story. I just felt like telling. Shiloh. Okay, I have gone well past my time, but so does Lynn, so that's okay. Anybody got any questions? No questions. Damn, I'm a good teacher. Yeah. No, thanks. You save them for the rest of the day, huh? Okay, I know what you're really waiting for is a bowel break. That's what you're waiting for. And the latrines are right through that doorway to the back. Man, we do need to take a break, don't we? Yeah. Go out that door and hang the right, male and female separate, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.